Afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. And yes, things are happening. Things are happening. We'll just point out we have got a Fashion Friday, our first Fashion Friday. There's a new design on the merch store. Hopefully, we'll get a few more coming in over the next few months on a more regular basis as well. So I'll leave it up for one moment. So, Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick. This is all very interesting. There's quite an interesting article. Brad's just said there, top things Tories are good at: corruption, messing up Phil's video schedule. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind if Labour messed it up a little bit more. You know, with a unexpected announcement. The problem was just the timing. Ordinarily, it might have been okay. The timing of the sacking yesterday. We'll get rid of this now. The timing of it, because I don't know what it is. Which one is it? It's this one. It was just that yesterday, which I suppose will be another plug coming. I was just getting ready to record the next podcast on the Whatever Floats Your Vote channel that Nick Webb and I have set up. So I didn't have time to do anything, but it didn't really matter anyway because more stuff happened. But then of course, between me doing the video and putting it up, he actually did then go to Reform UK. I hesitate to say defect. It's not really a defection. He obviously intended to defect. See, the way I did the video, it opened the way that Robert Jenrick would join Reform UK. I didn't know he'd do it on the same day. I still don't know why he did it on the same day. Because he was denying he was getting ready to defect. He denied he was getting ready to defect. And yet he got sacked at like 11, half 11, something like that, about 11 o'clock in the morning, let's say. By the afternoon, he was being paraded by Nigel Farage in front of television cameras. So he completely vindicated Kemi Badenoch, completely exposed. There were some Tories casting doubt. Robert Jenrick, they should have stayed. They should have waited a bit. They should have waited a week or two, right? If they waited a week or two, Robert Jenrick could claim he never was defecting, but as you know, he's going to stand for someone, and he's, and he's happy enough with Reform UK's policies. He's said that within the Conservative Party. Robert Jenrick has been open that he likes a lot of Reform UK's policies anyway. He just thinks that the Conservatives should adopt them. So, he could have put pressure on Badenoch because there were some Tories casting doubt on it. George Osborne, Kwasi Kwarteng, Jacob Rees-Mogg were some of the ones. Kwasi Kwarteng was the stupidest. He really criticised Badenoch for it. Jacob Rees-Mogg was more being sceptical about whether the proof was real proof. But then that's still criticising Badenoch for either being dishonest or stupid, right? But she's completely vindicated. Completely vindicated because it's now proven beyond doubt, because there's no way Robert Jenrick was not planning on defecting, gets sacked, and then instantly joins Reform UK. He was planning it. Nigel Farage didn't even bother to deny that they'd been talking about it. So, apparently wanted to draw out the defection, but Badenoch sacking him hastened the move. Well, yes. As Badenoch's told the truth in this, right? We didn't know she was telling the truth. It's believable, totally believable that because here's the thing, you got to think to yourself, what was better for Robert Jenrick? Was it to be the leader of the Conservative Party or to join Reform UK as maybe a senior member of a Nigel Farage government if they can win, right? Which was better for him? Probably he would prefer to be leader of the Conservative Party, right? Especially if he genuinely thinks he could have a shot at winning the election, right? So he would have preferred that. So that's why he was sticking around, right? So what went wrong? Well, Kemi Badenoch in the last few months has looked more secure. Like a few months ago, if we were talking about Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party, we would have said after next year's, as in this year's local election, she'll be gone. They were just waiting for the local elections. Because remember, they can depose Kemi Badenoch now. They're totally free to trigger a leadership contest. And you would have thought, get the local elections out of the way, they'll be disastrous, then get rid of her, get a new leader in, right? That was what was going to happen. But in recent months, Kemi Badenoch has looked stronger. Why? Well, if you read some of the people, the Conservatives in the media, they'll say, oh, she's doing better in PMQs now, stuff like that. She's doing no better in PMQs. The only reason her performances aren't as embarrassing is because she actually now has some lines to use against Labour, self-inflicted from Labour. Starmer has handed her easy lines, like this week it was the digital ID thing. But Kemi Badenoch is still not using them to good effect. She still comes across as very nervous. You know, for those who watched PMQs this week, when she was trying to sort of say, she was trying to quote Wes Streeting as having said, you know, can you get these things right first time? And she repeated the first line. Oh yes, it did. Oh yes, he did. And it's like, she's really nervous the way she comes across. She delivers it very badly. And Starmer, because he knew he was going to get both barrels from Badenoch, he was prepared for it and he had a response ready. So Badenoch's making no impact on PMQs. If some Conservatives think, oh, this is much better line of question, fine, they can think what they like. But it's not. It's not doing any better. But it doesn't matter. If the Conservatives think that Kemi Badenoch's looking a bit better and she's improving, then they're happy to give her more time. That's entirely up to them. The other thing will be this action now, and this is what's really... I am going to push back a bit on this. First of all, this move by Badenoch was absolutely superb. It was a very shrewd move. Brilliant. But it's been described by those on the right wing as showing balls and gumption and tough, ruthless leadership. No, it's not. It was brilliant from Badenoch, for Badenoch. Robert Jenrick was her main rival. Although Badenoch's looking more secure now, as soon as there's another wobble, she's not going to be leading them into the next election, or I'd be very surprised if she did. If Jenrick had stayed back, Jenrick represented we have an alternative to Badenoch, right? She represented, this was the problem with Boris Johnson. People didn't really believe they had an alternative, and you know what? They were right. But Boris Johnson had to go. At the point at which, so if Badenoch looks like, you know, she's going nowhere and the Tories slip back down again for whatever reason in the next year or two, she's gone. Jenrick would have just been available. He wouldn't have necessarily won the leadership contest, but he would have been a good trigger for it, right? So Jenrick being gone secures Badenoch for even longer, because now there isn't. I mean, James Cleverly, we don't even know wants another crack at it. He's certainly not agitating, so there isn't any pressure now on Badenoch, even if she carries on being shit. So it wasn't a ballsy move from Badenoch. It was an obvious move from Badenoch. She was presented with an opportunity to get rid of Robert Jenrick. Brilliant. It's a rival, for Christ's sake. So, of course, So I will push back on that. It wasn't a ballsy move from Badenoch. It wasn't showing gumption or anything. You know, it was... The way I described it to Dan Hodges, it was like praising a dog for eating a sausage, right? But the way it was done... Oh, superb. Superb as well. Timing the sacking to screw up Nigel Farage's press conference. I mean, that's how you do it. That's what Labour need to do more. Screw Nigel Farage's press conferences. Obviously, they can't do something like that, but they can absolutely do it. I'll catch up with some comments, but then I want to go through something in an article here. Denies. Oh, here's a convenient press conference reform have ready. Yeah. Lee Anderson has tried comedy today. Oh, good. Let's have a look. Posted the official opposition with a screenshot of Reform's 6 MPs. Well, I mean, to be fair, they've screwed Labour over here, because Keir Starmer now can never use that taxi joke again, can he? Even if they lose another one now, they still won't really comfortably fit in a taxi. Heard someone found his resignation letter. Well, yeah, but the thing is, so yes, it was a resignation. It was supposed to, I think it was supposed to be like a speech for his, but anyway, whatever it was, some form of resignation letter or defection speech. Yes, that was what it's supposed to be based on. But you can make that up. You can make that up. That wasn't proof, because Badenoch's allies, who would have wanted shot of Jenrick, could have got rid of it. But the proof is the fact that Jenrick joined Reform UK a few hours later. And actually, Reform UK, again, are not happy about this. I have to keep emphasising. Reform UK's grassroots, there are some core Reform UK supporters who are themselves disaffected Tories. So they don't mind Tories moving across. But most of them hate the Tories. Most of them are people who have, and they particularly hate the Tories of the last Parliament. Someone like that who was in the cabinet of the last Parliament. He was the immigration minister. He was the immigration minister who opened up all the asylum hotels. He was the immigration minister who allowed the backlog of asylum claims to build up. He was the immigration minister. He was the one that Nigel Farage said, you know, if you were to have asked Nigel Farage a year ago to name, not just say the Tories wrecked everything, but name the 5 Tories that did the most damage, Robert Jenrick would be one of those 5, according to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage described him as a fraud, with actually good reason, right? Particularly on the asylum hotels issue. And now he presents them. He's literally presented them. In fact, I did this earlier today. This is literally what he's done, isn't it? Let me find it. What did I do with the bloody thing? Oh, come here. This is basically what Nigel Farage did yesterday. He says, right, I've invited another fraud to join our outfit. And there's a deal, remember. There's a deal here. Because, so Robert Jenrick will be allowed to stand as a Reform UK candidate. Now, I discussed in the video yesterday, he won't necessarily win it, mind you. Don't bank on him winning it. He might. I'm not saying he won't. It's far too early to tell. We can't possibly predict. We can't even predict the general election results this far out, let alone an individual constituency election that is at the moment quite tight. The latest MRP poll from September showed it being very, pretty much even between Tories and Reform. It gave Reform UK the slight edge, but only just. There's a lot of reasons why I think there'll be tactical voting against Jenrick. I really do think there will. But anyway. It's the way he sits there, have the cheek to blame Labour, but amazing timing from here whenever they lose a nut, defects to Reform, the next day a nut goes there. Well, yes, yeah. But that's exactly right. I mean, Badenoch at the moment is saying she's not worried about further defections. There are going to be further defections. I mean, the thing I'm not going to look forward to, it's going to happen at some point. There will be a Labour defection, but maybe not this far out. How long till either Patel or Braverman, John? Patel probably, I don't think Patel will, for a couple of reasons. First of all, of those 5 that I said that Nigel Farage particularly attacked, one of them would also be Priti Patel, right? The second is, I think Priti Patel's okay in the Conservative Party. I don't think she's got a hankering to go anywhere else. I think Priti Patel, I'd have to check it out again, but I seem to recall Priti Patel's, if she wants to carry on being an MP that's on the front bench of the Tory party, I think she can do. I don't think, I'd have to double check. But I think she'd have a decent chance of winning her seat anyway. But also, I could also believe that Priti Patel won't necessarily be that arsed about staying in Parliament if things go south anyway. Like, she's had her time. She's been Home Secretary. She's not gonna go higher than that. She won't go higher than that. The best she can be at the moment is a senior member of the Conservative front bench. There is no advancement for her in Reform UK. So the fact that Nigel Farage, I think he's taken a risk getting Jenrick over, because Jenrick was literally the immigration minister that did a lot of the shit that Nigel Farage attacked. To have also got over the Home Office minister, the Secretary of State for the Home Office, the Home Secretary, who he will have to blame for the massive skyrocketing in immigration that Brexit actually caused, which I discussed in that the podcast earlier this week on that Whatever Floats Your Vote channel, another plug. Yeah, it would just look, can you imagine Nigel Farage gathering together literally all the Tories who let immigration get out of hand? All the ones that were specifically in charge of the Home Office at the time. That would just be mad. Braverman, he could probably get across because Braverman has always been a committed nutter. I think Suella Braverman would be welcome-ish in Reform UK, even given that she's a Tory, because they can see Suella Braverman as someone who tried to do the right thing at the Home Office and was constantly blocked by Rishi Sunak, and then had nothing to do with them, and and then got kicked out and didn't even try to come back or anything like that. So she can be seen as someone who tried to steer the Tory party in the right direction, according to these Reform UKers. So yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if Suella Braverman defected, but she doesn't have to do it in a massive hurry. Except Nigel Farage claims, because he is getting stick for inviting all these Tories across, so he claims there will be no more defections after May, which means he still expects to go after some defection before then. But I'm also going to say that's 100% bollocks. Are you going to tell me that Nigel Farage isn't going to accept some defections for because after May, what you've got another 3 years before the election? Are you going to tell me he's not going to allow any defections? Bollocks. So he's just lying again. Oh, Savary the saying, hi Phil, I got my mug, love it. Oh, that's good. I think the main thing is the focus entirely on Reform and Labour. There isn't much negativity about the Conservatives because no one's talking about them. There is that as well, yes. There isn't a huge amount of pressure on the Conservatives because at the moment nobody is viewing them as a potential government. That is a fairly decent point, yes. Anyway, let's go through this because this article's really quite... Because we've now got the lowdown about what really happened, journalists have been going out and find out what happened then, what really happened. So it's now been reported. So, here it is. On Monday, senior figures in Badenoch's office were sent screenshots of what one said was irrefutably Jenrick's entire resignation speech from what sources claimed was a mole in his office. Obviously, right, there are going to be some loyal Tories in his staff who are going to know what he's up to and leak it. So, that's worth thinking about for any future defectors. Along with the accompanying media plan. So they also knew when they were expecting to announce it. His speech was double-spaced for easy reading, implored his fellow Tories to defect with him as their party had lost its way. So he was going to call for others to join him, basically. Be very damaging. Singling out senior figures such as Priti Patel and Mel Stride for criticism. He added that Nigel Farage was the right person to lead the country. Despite all the rumours, the Tory leader's top team was still shocked by the betrayal. I really don't know why. Again, here's the situation. Robert Jenrick wanted to be leader of the Conservative Party. If he can't be leader of the Conservative Party, he might as well get in early with Reform UK and maybe become a senior minister in a Reform UK government, right? The reason why Robert Jenrick's defected is because Kemi Badenoch looks more secure now. It's really that simple. I still think Robert Jenrick would prefer to have been Conservative leader. I think he thinks he's missed the boat. So he's looked for another boat, right? So I don't know why they're shocked. At the end of the day, Badenoch's increased security closed the door for Jenrick. Jenrick's aides had been openly speculating at party events about when he would choose to defect. It was all presented jokingly, but of course it wasn't a joke. We all thought he would wait till May to see if he still had a chance to depose Kemi. Again, so they're backing what I'm saying up, right? That was exactly what it was about. But he's realised they're not going to get rid of her in May. Kemi Badenoch is not going... She's not going to have a leadership challenge this May. And the reason is, it doesn't matter how bad the Tories do in those elections... Because Labour, first of all, the Tories are ahead of Labour. So, at the moment, in terms of the polling, that makes them more secure as well. But that could easily change. But the other thing is, because Labour are looking at changing their leader, they will need to... There's no point in the Tories changing theirs, at least just yet, even if they thought Badenoch had to go. Absolutely no point at all. And the reason for that is... Let's say they've decided that Badenoch has to go, right? First of all, Labour get rid of their leader, and it's like, well, they may tear themselves to pieces over it, and then we might be able to have a proper fight back against Reform UK. So, leave it as it is. Don't change anything while you don't know all the parameters, all the factors. But the other thing is, So if Labour do change leader and that helps boost Labour, the new leader, the one that replaces Badenoch, would need to be a good foil against whoever takes over. So there might be some people in the Conservative Party who could be better against Angela Rayner, but others who might be better against Wes Streeting, and you know what I mean. So at the moment, I would actually, if I was a Tory MP, utterly convinced that Badenoch has to go before the next election, I wouldn't be in a rush to do it at this point. I might have been a few months ago, but at this point, I would not be in a rush to do it, because I'd be thinking, let's wait and see what we're up against. Because if you're going to choose another leader, you need to choose someone who's up for the task. You don't know what the task is at the moment. So wait another year. So that's what's happened there. So shortly after receiving the screenshots, a journalist who is close to and trusted by the Badenoch operation told the team they'd heard from a close friend of Jenrick he was definitely making the leap, sources told The Guardian. So in other words, Badenoch hasn't stitched him up. He was actually going to defect, and that's the basis on which he was sacked. Because I am going to tell you, if you gave Badenoch a way to sack Jenrick, she would have done it anyway, I think. Badenoch's senior aides were already aware that Farage was due to appear on the BBC's Laura Kunsberg show this Sunday and feared he would drop heavy hints before announcing the defection the next morning to maximise the damage. They immediately told Badenoch and advised her to sack Jenrick and kick him out of the party. Quote, Kemi was regretful. She wished we were in this position, one source says, but she was absolutely clear and focused. Rob had to go. She'd have secretly loved it. There was no attempt to win over Jenrick. We knew we had to act immediately. And that's true, by the way. It actually makes no difference whether this booting out would have helped Badenoch or not. It had to be done. If you know someone's defecting, you kick them out. You sack someone before they resign, right? Well, you don't really do it in a workplace, because if they resign, you don't have to pay them anything. But you know what I mean? In a political thing where there's no backbite and no one can sue you for for removing the whip, right? You definitely kick someone out before they jump, because then you give yourself the sort of moral high ground. And when it says there was no attempt to win over Jenrick, it's like, no, of course not, because Jenrick was an embarrassment to them anyway. Jenrick, if Kemi Badenoch didn't need to keep Jenrick in her shadow cabinet, he would not be in her shadow cabinet. He was constantly briefing against her, or at least her policies. Badenoch left it to her chief whip, Rebecca Harris, to phone Jenrick, a move which one ally describes as delicious. Speaking to Harris, the MP angrily denied he was planning to defect, one Tory shadow cabinet source alleged. Lying bastard then, wasn't it? The Tory leader's ambush, a video message where she laid out the charges, was hastily recorded just before. She released her video just after 11 a.m, timed to coincide with Farage's press conference in Scotland, knowing journalists would confront the Reform UK leader. Yeah, I can't fault that. Can't fault that move at all. Who's this Labour figure who's going to defect? Kate Hoey. Well, yeah, she's already gone. Only good thing about this, it keeps Nigel away from Clacton. Well, he keeps himself away from Clacton. As long as the Tory has-beens are suitably despicable, corrupt and racist, the Reform UKers won't mind. The thing is, though, I'll tell you what's going to happen, though, at this rate. The Reform UK lineup at the next election is going to look more like the Conservative government than the Conservative lineup. Like, Robert Jenrick has now been replaced by someone who only won their seat in 2024. So they're brand new, right? They're a new face. That's in a way what Badenoch needs to do, get more new faces in. The new faces, just like the new faces in Labour, need to like get good on social media and raise them a profile for themselves. They're not doing that, but never mind. But that's what needs to happen. At the next election, the Conservative front bench might not look a lot like the last Conservative government, but Reform UK's front bench might. I mean, that's going to look mad. Maybe they were shocked Jenrick didn't go for a position. He couldn't. She's now, and honestly, Tory MPs don't want to get rid of her right now. They don't. The ones who think she can't make it to the election are going, we're not in a rush now. We're not in a rush. And they're not in a rush. It's not like she's any more hemorrhaging votes. The Tories are sort of floating. They're like a shit in the sea, but, you know, they're floating. there's no urgency to get rid of Badenoch. And as I say, if I were a Tory MP, and with, you know, if I was as I am in terms of my strategic outlook, but right wing and a Conservative MP, I wouldn't at this point want to get rid of Badenoch. I would urge people, let's wait. I would not want her to lead us into the next election, but I would not want to get rid of her right now, because I don't think, first of all, you can think she's doing all right in PMQs because she's been given easy lines by Labour. I fully expect Keir Starmer to keep messing up because his team is amateurishly bad. They're going to keep giving Kemi Badenoch easy lines for PMQs. Yes, he's batting them away again. He's not looking under pressure. And ideally, you want a leader that can put Starmer under pressure, and she's not doing it. But you can, given that the media are on the side of the right wing anyway, they can report what she's saying and make it sound like she's doing a good job. So there's no great panic to get rid of her. Their policy in common furiously fight against threat of rising taxes targeted at the super rich voters and backers. Yeah. There's a lot in common now with the Conservatives and Reform UK. I'm actually now finding it difficult to find any policies they don't have in common. I'm not sure there are really any. They're both wanting tax cuts that favour the rich. They're both wanting to cut public spending. They both want to privatise the NHS. They both want to pull out of international institutions. It's just whatever you look at, I cannot actually think of a policy they don't have in common now, which makes it difficult for the Conservatives to attack Reform UK and Nigel Farage. The only policy, I suppose the only one really, is the Conservatives do seem these days to be much more honestly on the side of Ukraine against Russia. That seems to be a genuine one, where Reform UK, although they sort of say, oh yeah, Ukraine should be able to defend itself, they don't say we should help them. So that's a difference. You would argue that's a difference. Ukraine is a difference, but I can't really think of any others. The nurse tribunal just came out. Trans woman did nothing wrong, but the nurses were unfairly, indirectly discriminated against. Yeah, I saw that. I think that was expected from what I saw of some of the preamble to it. I think basically it was a case of the trans nurse did nothing wrong, as you say. The trans woman, sorry, I think was it a nurse or a doctor? I can't remember. But the trans person did nothing wrong, but the way the management dealt with it wasn't great for the others either. I think that was what was expected. Yeah, of course, the pro-trans BBC News focuses on the discrimination part for the title, not that whole case was frivolous. Yeah, quite. Did I hear about the GTA Online mission that recreates the Charlie Kirk shooting? No, I don't. It's not one of my games, so I don't know. But anyway, so they might be amateurish, but at least they're arrogant too. What the Downing Street operation? They're incredibly arrogant, utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous that they're blaming everyone else but themselves. I mean, this is what's caused Wes Streeting, out of sheer frustration this week, to say, you know, he came out with that thing about stop blaming the piss in civil service. It's something I've said months ago. You know, I mean, again, how ridiculous is this? I cannot understand how they just lack introspection. They just lack the ability to say, is this our fault? I'll tell you something. Little life lesson. You may not, most of my audience are quite old, so you probably don't, you've already learnt it yourself. But little life lesson I learnt in my 30s, right? I'd have preferred to learn it earlier. I would have benefited from learning it earlier, but it took me till my 30s to learn it, right? And it is this. Sometimes in life, shit happens and it's someone else's fault. So what do? Well, that's their fault, right? They should fix it. Do you know what? They're not going to fix it. Some people do. Some people actually screw something for someone and they go, I'm sorry about that. I'll take responsibility. But you cannot expect it. Life is full of dickheads and they're not going to fix shit, even if they broke it, right? And I used to be like this. If you know, I used to be responsible. If something was my fault, I used to take responsibility for it, right? But there were some things that weren't my fault. I thought, well, hang on, that's your fault. You fix it. And there came a point in my 30s when I just thought to myself, they're not fixing it, Phil. but I could fix it. And there was a time when I was young and I'd have resented having to deal with someone else's shit. But it still makes my life easier to do it. And there came a point in my life when I just thought to myself, if there's something that's negatively impacting your life, can you fix it? Doesn't matter whose fault it is. Can you, unless you can force the person whose fault it is to fix it, like, you know, if you're their boss, if you're a manager of someone and someone in your team cocks something up, you can reasonably ask them to fix it then, because you can make them do it. But if you can't make them do it, if you've got no power over them, can you fix it? If the answer is yes, just bloody well fix it. And as soon as that switched a light in my head, as soon as I came up with that mindset, all of a sudden from that point, my entire mindset has been, if something in my life isn't going as I'd want it to go, can I fix it? And if the answer is yes, just fix it. And what it does, it not only makes your life better, because rather than suffering, but it's someone else's fault, so it's fine, it also forces you to sort of reflect on your own agency and actions. And that is completely absent in Downing Street. You know, I mean, look what happened with the civil service. So they hire Sue Gray. Keir Starmer, absolutely stunning coup. Hire Sue Gray so that you've got someone advising him at the very top of the Downing Street operation on how to get things done. Because they know they haven't got a lot of government experience. You've got a couple, you've got Yvette Cooper a little bit, you've got Ed Miliband. You know, you haven't got a lot of government experience in Labour, right? So you want to hit the ground running. You want to know how things work in reality, right? Keir Starmer's pragmatic. He wants to know how things work in reality. So he gets Sue Gray. Sue Gray can tell him how to get shit done in Whitehall, right? Brilliant move. Wins power. Excellent. Sue Gray can help him hit the ground running. Superb. Sacks her. Because Morgan McSweeney's little childish grunts go, oh, she's getting paid too much. Absolutely disgraceful. And they make a right whining about it. Then she becomes the story and has to go, right? Then what does he do? So he has this person who was going to advise him how to get shit done in Whitehall. You know, he's going to advise him how to actually get the civil service to do what you want. Gets rid of her. Replaces her with someone who's got no experience of the civil service at that level. None at all. I haven't got a fucking clue how Whitehall works. Then a few months later, he's going, oh, we can't get Whitehall to do what we want. Really? What caused that, do you think, Keir? Oh, but I absolutely don't regret getting rid of Sue Gray. You're a fucking idiot then. Anyway, pardon my French. But absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. What they need to do is they need to learn the lesson I learned in my 30s. They need to think to themselves, blame whoever you like, but can you fix it? And the answer has to be yes. If you're Keir Starmer, or any senior advisor around Keir Starmer, if you're that senior within the government operation, you can do something about it. You have agency. This is number 10, for Christ's sake. It's the heart of government. It's supposed to be the brains of government as well, but it isn't. You've got agency, right? So they should be thinking, it doesn't matter whose fault something is. Moan about the media all you like. Moan about the civil service all you like. Can you do something to fix it? Because if you can't, no one else is going to do it for you. That's what they should learn. But anyway, will we see a Jenrick bounce for the Tories or reform? Well, we may not see much at all. But we will see. I strongly suspect, if you see a point one way or the other, it doesn't mean anything. Remember, that's margin for error. So you'd have to be talking, it'd have to be major enough to cause a 2 or 3 point bounce somewhere. I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if that were the case. But we will wait and see. What will be more interesting to me is how, first of all, the Tories react, because now a major voice calling for them to align with Reform UK is gone. There's still others, but, one is gone. But also Reform UK, because Reform UK grassroots do not like this. They don't like it. Anyway, last couple of comments here. Ivan, Jenrick is vile. Some people who worship him. But that's the same with everyone. There's a lot of people, a lot of senior politicians have their supporters. Esfat saying, I bet paid too much was just a pretext. It was she disagrees with us, most likely. Basically, yes, Morgan McSweeney's people wanted Morgan McSweeney to be chief of staff, and they got what they wanted. It was the pay was, it was just they would have come up with something else. They were just moaning at her. They just wanted more. Basically, Morgan McSweeney was allowed to hire too many people, and he surrounded himself with his own little cult. And that's what 10 Downing Street is now. It's absolutely mad. But anyway, we'll leave it there. I shall be on, no doubt, talking more about this with Graham. I don't know what topic he's decided to talk about, but I'm pretty sure it's probably this. Later today at 1 o'clock on Politics Social channel. So thanks for coming on, everyone. Have a great rest of day, and until next time, I'll see you later.